Hello, everyone, and welcome to Joy in Our Town. My name is Jarrisa Garcia. I'll be your host today, and we have a very interesting topic lined up for you. We are here with Michael Flores. He's senior officer in the Division of Gang in the greater Houston area. And the topic at hand right now is identifying gang activity. So we will be talking about gang activity here. So when we think about gang activity, what differentiates a gang from a group of people that are just hanging together? What is the factor that really sets this as a gang?
Well, the Texas Penal Code basically defines a gang as 3 or more people that have common identifying signs, symbols, or colors, and have identifiable leadership. But the main thing is that they regularly commit crimes. So a group of kids hanging out, say they're the Boy Scouts or something, maybe they have a uniform, they have a leadership, but they're not out there to commit crime. They're out there for a different purpose.
Okay.
So the criminal activity is the thing that really differentiates the gangs from another group of individuals.
Okay. So any group of people, when there's crime associated with it, crime activity, then that's where a gang is really identified.
As long as they are claiming an affiliation. In other words, they may have a certain symbol that they use or certain colors that they use.
They're identifiable.
Yes, ma'am. And when we identify them that way, but just because you have signs and symbols wouldn't necessarily make you a gang.
Okay.
It's the criminal activity that differentiates them from other organized groups that have those symbols and signs.
Now, in terms of, I guess, in a city, are there any sort of geographical areas where gangs are more prevalent or they're more of a problem?
Well, we have different type of gangs in different parts of the city.
Okay.
I wouldn't say that they're just in one certain area. They move around. They're not confined by borders such as us. Most of your police department, we have different districts that we work in, different beats in those districts, and the gangs are not really confined by any kind of borders. So they can move around, freely, different places. They may start a new sect somewhere else. So having the gang division is very effective because we're not confined by a geographic area, and we're able to work with other agencies that way.
Oh, interesting. So if really they can move around within a city and they may not necessarily be set anywhere, any particular place, then what are some of the signs that gang activity is starting or is happening within my neighborhood?
Okay, well, a lot of things that you will notice is maybe some kids that you haven't recognized before hanging out in your area that you don't recognize from living in your neighborhood. You may start seeing graffiti, and there's different kinds of graffiti. It may not be gang graffiti. You may see tagger graffiti, and some people have a hard time differentiating the two different graffitis, but you just see a difference in your neighborhood. Maybe some people move in and then all of a sudden you're seeing a large group of kids hanging around there, maybe the way that they're dressed, more of a hip-hop type style with the sagging pants, things like that, and that's not always the case.
Yeah.
But something that's out of the norm. And
Okay.
you will be seeing, different, like cars coming and going different times of the night, things like that. Something that would draw your attention if you're observing what's going on in your neighborhood.
You mentioned that sometimes the graffiti is hard to identify. What's the difference, if I may ask?
Well, gang graffiti is a little more specific. They will put the name of their gang, maybe abbreviated in a couple of letters or something, and they may have their gang names. They always have nicknames.
Okay.
And they have their nicknames down there. They may have different kind of codes that, like for example, 187 is the California Penal Code for murder. They may put a rival gang X amount and put 187 under them, saying that that's a rival gang. Your tagger graffiti, they're more like, they consider themselves artists. They're more artsy, the bubbly letters, the squared letters. You'll see a lot of it on trains when they go by.
Yeah.
They're more into putting their stuff on the internet and getting attention with their artwork than they are gang members. But
They're not necessarily tagged in any particular, in a less particular way, I guess. Is that fair to say?
yeah, they want the attention. So that's when you see it on the overpasses, you see it on the signs, the green street signs that are over the freeways.
Yeah.
They want to get to hard to reach places,
Got
so
it.
they get the attention.
Right. So, they want to claim that they did it.
Exactly.
So, but so if we go back and just recap, in identifying gang activity in the neighborhood, it's if anything is out of the norm, anything kind of different that may be happening, that's really what to pay attention to. Then that's correct, right?
Yes, ma'am. If you're used to seeing a certain way and things are changing,
Mm-hmm.
it's more of the activity that you're going to see. You're going to see a lot of cars coming and going different times of the night, things like that. The gangs are obviously associated with crime, so one of the crimes that they're very involved in is narcotics. So, you're going to see a lot of people coming and going different cars, all times of the night, when maybe before you didn't notice things like that.
Yeah. So we've talked about how to identify gang activity. Now, in terms of, let's talk about what may draw someone to join a gang and why it is so hard to get out of it.
Okay, well, I believe that there's several factors that influence these young people to go into the gangs. One of them may be if they move here, let's say from another country, and they don't speak English, and they move into a certain apartment complex where their family lives or something, and everyone in that complex belongs to a certain gang, it's going to be kind of hard for them not to get involved with the gang, because it's either join them or you're going to be an outsider.
Yeah.
Another thing is the gang promise a lot of things that the families don't. And a lot of people have to work now. Our economy's not the greatest, so maybe mom and dad both work, and the kids are home alone with kind of idle hands, and maybe they can't afford the nice shoes that cost $300 or things like that. Well, the gang offers them ways to make money, takes them in like a family. They're telling the gangs as their friends at school or whatever the problems that they have, so they're using that to draw them into the gangs and make them feel like they're family. Now, it's not true. They'll turn their backs on them as soon as they're arrested, but they make these kids believe that they're there for them and they really care about them.
Okay. So is the benefit that they believe to be getting from the gang really that draws them in and maybe keeps them there?
A lot of times that is what draws them in. I mean, they feel important. Maybe before nobody knew who they were. When they joined the gang, now they're getting a lot of attention. Mm-hmm. People are fearing them that before didn't pay any attention to them.
So there's a certain respect, or there's a certain so-and-so, there's a certain admiration, but from a fear standpoint, we can say.
Exactly. They're getting attention from maybe the young girls that before didn't notice them, things like that. So it gives them a sense of being, even though it's a false sense of security.
Yes.
It does give them a type of security, at least a feeling of it.
And someone will want to hold on to that and really, claim that and live with that. So we've talked about sort of why and what draws someone in there. Then what may be some of the techniques that have been effective in curtailing gang activity?
Well, the unit that I belong to is called the GREAT Unit, which stands for Gang Resistance Education and Training. There's 6 officers in the Houston Police Department that we go into the schools in the 6th grade, and we teach 12 lessons. There's actually 14 total if you add the other stuff, but there's 12 designated lessons that we teach, and we offer them some alternatives and tell them the truth about the gangs. We teach them some goal setting. We teach them refusal techniques for people trying to get them into the gangs or into other criminal activity, communication skills, active listening, different things that would help them to be successful. And we tell them the truth about the gang, so when they're approached later or during the time that they're in middle school, they know when these guys come up to them, hey, I've heard this before, I'm not going to fall for it. So we try to give them an alternative and try to get them to focus on their future in a positive way rather than letting the gangs, come in and disrupt their lives.
So now that's some of what the police department does to mitigate and to prevent and to maybe educate around gang activity. Now, in terms of the community, how can the community help or partner with the police department to help?
If you see a group of individuals hanging around that you believe are committing some kind of criminal activity, they don't have to be in a gang. Go ahead and report it to the police department. Mm-hmm. Give us a call and let the officers go out there and make that determination. They don't have to be a gang member to be committing crime, but you don't want that in your area. Yeah. Also, when you see a large amount of graffiti, you can call 311 and get them to come up and clean it up. If it stays there, rival gangs start, writing over things, doing tagging over and over, and sooner or later they may be there at the same time and you might have a problem. But if we get that cleaned up, it kind of deters them from coming back. Another thing is report anything that you see to Crime Stoppers. Okay. That's very effective. So they've been a good partner with us and come out to the schools and talk to the kids about reporting things that they hear, things that they learn on social media, things like that. And it's able to help us to be able to properly investigate those crimes.
So reporting really is one way to engage or to help or partner, certainly, with the police department. Now, would you be able to maybe review, or what's the key thing that you'd like for viewers to stay with in terms of how to identify and maybe help stopping gang activity?
Well, I would suggest that you talk to your kids. You know, I know we have busy lives, but we need to take the time out to talk to our kids. We need to pay attention if there's a difference in their behavior. If they're having new friends coming over that you've never seen before that are different than the friends they've traditionally had. Look at their school books, look in their binders, look in their backpacks. See if you see some kind of graffiti on there, or if people are calling them a different name than they've ever had, like a nickname or something. So be vigilant with your children. Talk to them. You know, tell them about these things. If they don't know anything about them, then they don't know any better than to, you know, maybe get associated with these kids. So pay close attention to your kids, your grandkids, nephews, nieces, whoever it is, even the children in your neighborhood, and speak to them about that. You know, keep them involved in activities, extracurricular activities. They don't have time to get in trouble if they're playing with basketball or football or soccer or whatever it may be, you know, even if it's music or whatever it is. Anything that keeps them busy, I think would keep them out of some of these situations.
So really paying attention and trying to discern and pick up on the differences that are happening within the child would be one way to certainly try to identify and help stop gang activity.
Yes, ma'am. I believe the parents know their children probably better than most other people,
else.
you know. And the teachers know what to do, you know, to try to help there. But we've got to hit them from every angle to make sure that our children are safe.
Got it. Well, thank you so much, Officer Michael Flores, for being with us. So now if you're someone in the community, a parent or anyone, now certainly the way to get in touch or reach out to the department will be by, first of all, you'll find the Houston Police Department. They're located at 1200 Travis Street, Houston, Texas, 77002. The phone number to reach them will be 713-308-0200. And also, you can certainly find information in the website at www.houstonpolice.org.